Herbert should be able to take us through the brief of who we are and what we do other than implementing Office 365 apps. And then from there, we'll dive into the application. Yeah, thank you. So over to you, Herbert.
Thank you so much, Ida. My name, once again, is Herbert Kayondo. I'm a consultant with HRP Solutions. I'm glad to take you through our Microsoft platform, Teams. But first, before I do that, allow me to introduce HRP Solutions and who we are. Well, HRP Solutions is a Microsoft certified solutions center or solutions partner. How do we operate? We operate in the following areas: South Sudan, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Tanzania, and Zambia, but with our main offices in Uganda. What do? We implement a couple of solutions, but majorly with Microsoft as our key partner. A couple of solutions that we roll out include ERPs, or Enterprise Resource Planning Solutions. In there we have Business Central, Dynamics 365 Business Central. We have Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. We also do customer relationship management through customer engagement, Microsoft Customer Engagement. So that's our CRM platform. We do SharePoint and the products, the solutions that rely on SharePoint. That's one key area of our deliveries, our implementation, our expertise. We do, of course, Office 365. This is a quick look and preview of our Business Central as a product. Clearly in there, it's multi-platform enabled. You can access it through your mobile, your laptop, both on the web and desktop application. You can have it on the move as indicated. These are some of the capabilities of Business Central. Financial management, service management, project management, supply chain management, operations, analytics and reporting. Of course, these are high-level areas within the system with a couple of modules that handle specifics. So in there, we would be able to explore that for you during implementation. For now, this is not an area we will focus on that much, but we'll have another webinar in time to showcase some of these products as well. Now, what we are talking about today is under our Office 365 platform. And in here, we have a couple of areas. Of course, Office 365 ships with a couple of features, just to mention but a few here. We have Outlook, Office apps, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, and so on. We have SharePoint and SharePoint Online. We have OneDrive, that's a storage facility or a storage drive. And then we have Teams, which we are going to showcase today. We have Exchange Online, Yammer, and other applications that come through that. Today we are showcasing Teams, and here is a quick preview of how this would look like. This would be a desktop application, a Windows application interface. I'll show you how the web would look like. It would give you exactly the same functionality as well. Okay. So yes, I will dive into the presentation, the demo. Okay. Now, Microsoft Teams is a collaboration tool, okay? You could say this is a team that gives you a 4-in-1 package, if you like. You have your messaging apps, very rich messaging apps. You have a sharing platform, which involves file sharing through SharePoint, application sharing through SharePoint Online and OneDrive. You have, of course, the calling. You can call straight from your Teams. So meaning that I can make an online call, but I can also make a call directly onto a phone, okay, straight from here. But also I could do a couple of other things with Teams. So the purpose of Teams is to collaborate and have an organization working and collaborating, its teams working and collaborating in one area, one single area. Okay. Now, allow me to just jump into the view of Teams. Like I said, Teams is also mobile enabled, so meaning that I could access it on the go. I could access it through the platform, the web environment. So quickly here, if I may, this would be the look and feel of your web environment. Okay, so it gives you more or less the same interface, same functionality as it would be on your on-prem environment, on your application environment on Windows. Okay, but I could have this as well on mobile. So here I'm showcasing the Windows application environment. Now in here, we have the navigation area. It's so simple to use and adopt. As you will see, you can easily navigate. For example, you have the back and forth, the navigation, forward, back, navigation. You have the left navigation panel here, where you have the activity, chat area, Teams area. This is the heart of the entire conversation. You have the calendar and area for scheduling. You have calls, or where you can make your phone contacts, and then upload of files and all that. Okay, we're going to dive in and have a look at each. I can also up here, right here, I could also start a new chat or a new conversation. So I could come here and say new chat. Okay, I could also do a search. Okay, I could also do a search directly here. Okay, so quickly let me run through the navigation pane on the left-hand side. And in here I have my activities. So here, this would give me a view of how or what it is I've been looking at, or what it is that I could have missed out at any given time. So in here, I have a missed call from Ronald. Okay, I had a meeting with Julius, and so on. So imagine if I have a list of so many feeds in here to track. I could come here and easily track all my feeds by simply coming here and saying, give me everything that is unread, okay? Or give me anything that was assigned to me. So in here I could come and say, what are my action points that have been, that I need to act on? So if I come and select mentions, I would be able to see I have one, and clearly the system has actually picked it for me, okay, with an art. So the search capability is right in there for you and very easy to adopt. Of course, there are a number of things that you can do. You can pick all your replies, where you did any replies. You can do any reactions, or where you reacted within the conversations, and so on. So many of these under your activity area. In here also, I could choose to look at just my activities. So this was my feed for the entire team, but I could also look at just my activities. Excuse me, just my activities. So this would give me a list of how I have been relating within and all the conversations within. Okay. So that is it with my activity area. I could also come in here and do my charts. We mentioned that the solution ships with a very rich chart tool. And in here, I could clearly see which are those group-related conversations. For example, here, this would be a Julius and Magoba conversation, which included myself. So in here, if I need personal conversations, for example, I had a personal conversation with Julius. So this would be a personal conversation, and this would be a group conversation. Okay? Now, we will differentiate that as we go along. Now, clearly, if, for example, I need to prioritize certain conversations, imagine there are certain charts that I want to follow along or follow through closely. I would simply come in here and say, for example, I'm interested in having my chart on this particular, okay, pinned up here for ease of reference. So it will now come under my priorities up here, under my pinned chart. Okay, I could still remove it from pin and it will go down. Now, in here, a quick one, you would see that there are a couple of things. For example, when I accessed my teams, you saw that right through the desktop, I received a report here. It told me I have 4 things that I'm missing out, new activities that I could be missing out on Teams. So clearly you would see I have 4 of them. And when I opened my screen, of course, here would be my 4 activities. And which would those be? You see these that are highlighted, those would be the activities that are being mentioned therein, that need my attention, okay? Okay, so in here, for example, my conversation here, I could say anything. I could type up a message, I could communicate. We'll come back to this area in a short while, but the conversation goes on right here. Now, allow me to jump into the Teams area. Now, in the Teams area, this is where you do your grouping as an organization. For example, you may choose to organize at organization-wide level. You could choose to organize at departmental level. You could also scale it down to project-specific level. Okay. Now, in here, I have, for example, my organization-wide level. And in here, I would have all the conversations that relate to, but at the organization level. I could have it structured in such a way that I have my teams. For example, I have my technical team, I have my sales team, I have my finance and administration, and whichever other team. But I could also choose to cluster my groupings or my teams through projects. For example, I have a project here, just as an example, Uganda Airlines. And in here, I would have what we call channels of communication, okay? Now, in here, there could be, for example, again, varying from how you want to structure it on your site, you could have this ranging from, for example, research and development that relates to this project, project implementation status reports, or whichever it is that you want to structure. So in here, you can create as many teams as you want, okay? You can create many channels, through the project teams that you want, okay? Now, right in here, if I come in and say, look at Uganda Airlines project, there would be a couple of rich conversation that is happening within the teams, okay? And who are the team members? Those I could also have them invited here. So you'd see I have Emmanuel, I have Julius, and I have myself, but I could add as many users to join onto this team, to collaborate on this team. Now in here, in this conversation, of course, I could clearly reply to a message, okay? As an example, I can come in here and say, for this particular conversation, I did not reply on time, but I can choose to reply now and say, and pick up the conversation afresh. Now, through my conversation, I could type out and be in position to even edit your rich editing. So in here, as you type, it's like your normal Word document. You could even edit, bold out statements, iterize, underline, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in here, you type a conversation, this ring presentation. Such that I could delete it afterwards. I could bold, I could iterize, I could mark, I could do anything here, just like you would do normally within your Word editing. And once that is done, I could have this shared. So this would be a message that would be read by the team members. Okay, in this case, Emmanuel and Julius. And also, I can attach a file. Now, at this point, if I decide to attach a file, I would be attaching this. For example, there's a file, where do I want to upload it from? It could be on my computer. It could be from my OneDrive. It could be from my Teams shared folder. Now, I will differentiate this for us, the difference between the Teams storage area and the OneDrive storage area, and what the implications are in there. So I would upload a file, for example, from anywhere. I could say from my computer, what this is. So naturally, my file would be uploaded, and therefore, this would be available for view, but to only the constituents of this project. In this case being the 2 users, or the 3 users, including myself. These are the only people that can view this. Now, at this point, I would mention that all this that involves team sharing is stored on SharePoint Online, okay? So all this is done under your SharePoint, under your SharePoint Online, okay? That's where the storage would be, okay? However, if I were chatting with an individual, if I go back just 1 minute, if I were chatting with an individual, our conversation is not shared in SharePoint Online, but rather shared in OneDrive. Those are the personal drives, our personal drives, but in the cloud still. Okay? So in here, there are a couple of things that, again, you can do, like I mentioned. You could like a message, you could give a thumbs up, you could, this all brings your communication to life. You could like, send a heart, who doesn't like this? Okay, but also, for example, if I'm right here, somebody sends a communication in a different language that I don't understand, I could choose, for example, here to have a translator for me. So this would right away be translated. So right away from Chinese, hello everybody, I'm glad to use this new product. That's what it means in Chinese. So meaning that I can communicate globally with any user in any language. But in this case, Microsoft supports up to 42 languages, but this is still being expanded. International languages, and this is still growing. All right? Let me take this back to the original communication. That was the original. Of course, I could choose to attend to this message at a later time. So I could come here and save this message for further review at a later time. I could mark it as unread. Yes, we know how this works through the various other platforms. We know how this works. You can read, you can unread, just like your Outlook would do as well. I could share this into my Outlook and so on. Okay. All right. Now, like I mentioned here, since we have, this is a collaboration tool, and we know very well that if I have a meeting and a conversation that drives out of a meeting, we may not be able to meet or have a meeting in mind of minds at any one given time. So we may choose to do a poll or a vote, if you like. So should we need to do a vote? Okay, we can right away come to a conversation and say, okay, we seem not to agree on XYZ. Maybe let's do a poll. So right here, straight right away from here, I could choose to do a poll. Okay, for the various participants to actually log in and poll. Let us poll. Okay, and what would be the options? Maybe agree, and this would be disagree. Okay, I could have other options coming to play, and if I say yes, so this would be, if I sent this out, okay, the various people in that group or in that conversation should be in position to receive this kind of poll or form. So in here they can say, I agree, and then submit a vote, or disagree, okay? And at the end of the day, you are able right away, right online, you are able to ascertain how the voting was done. Okay, and therefore be in position to also have the results propagated to everybody. It's transparent. You would be able to have everybody see the results online, depending on the voting that happened. Okay. All right. While in our conversation, of course, we said we needed to bring a couple of things to life. I could attach a file, like I already mentioned. I could like my emojis, I could send a GIF, I could send a sticker. These are all cool features that bring our conversation to light, okay? But right from here, I could also choose to schedule another meeting or decide to meet this person right away, okay? So I could schedule a meeting, but also I could have an engagement right away from here, okay? Right, so that would be it for here. Of course, there are other areas of interest. Once a file has been shared, you would be able to see all the shared files under this discussion, all stored here, but in our cloud environment. So for the IT users, those people that are, would be interested in knowing the security behind all this, and this is all guarded through your SharePoint Online and the policies that apply through SharePoint. Okay, so this would be, for example, you want to know who can edit a file, who can version a file, who can, pick from the advantages or the policies that come with SharePoint or the capabilities of SharePoint. Okay, and in here, these would now be the files that have been shared, but in this platform. I could also see, for example, our project tasks that are assigned, or the tasks, activities that have been scheduled. And in here, we have some customization tasks, we have some setup tasks, and so on. And at a glance, I could also tell how we are doing on this particular project. For example, what are the tasks that were assigned? There were 16 left. Not yet progressed. We have 14 in progress. 1, we are late on 1. We've completed 1. Okay, so you have visualization of what is happening and who is handling what. Okay, so you can see analysis is by Julius, Emmanuel, and so on. Okay. But also, you could schedule an appointment. You could schedule a task rather. Okay, so this would be it here. So you come in here and say a given task was created and was scheduled for a certain date, such that we are able to see the progress. Should we lag behind or fall off schedule, and put together means of bringing back the project on course. So all this, as you can see, is happening and gives you a visualization, but under one platform, Teams. Okay. All right. Now, quickly allow me to now move into the calendar area. Under calendar area, I can do a couple of things. I can schedule an appointment. I have some appointments that are scheduled already. I could decide to meet right away. Okay. We don't need to schedule, but meet right away. So I could create a new appointment or a new engagement here. But I could also create a meeting to be scheduled for a certain time. Okay, so here you would simply come and say, schedule a meeting. But I could also have a live engagement. Now, a live engagement helps you. You're able to admit as many as 10,000 people or 10,000 connections all into a given presentation or conversation. Okay, should you schedule a live event? All right, so quickly, let me just do a quick one here. This is a meeting, so I could come here and say, add a new meeting, follow-up meeting on Teams. Okay, who are required to attend? ADS. Okay. PSD. And so on. Okay, but I could also invite external users, and these external users would be would connect as guests. They would clearly be indicated as guests within this event. Okay, so in here is this, when is it supposed to happen? 29th, maybe at 6. Does it reoccur? No, it's a one-off meeting. Does not reoccur. Add a channel of communication. This will be under my project. I'm scheduling it for that. Location, this is an online Teams engagement. And then I put my subject matter here, and so on. Okay, and now if I send this out, of course I could schedule through my scheduling assistant to show when I have a slot. If there's any clash of any sort between, I can clearly see Peter has a tentative engagement already scheduled for that same time. So this would not be a good idea maybe, but the rest of us are good. Ronald is unavailable for that time. Okay, so meaning that I have visualization here and I could clearly look at people's presence to be able to schedule. This gives me the intelligence to be able to craft out and allocate accordingly. Okay, so if I chose another time slot, that should automatically be able to update where we are all available, and therefore I could have this sent out. Okay, now again in here I wanted to showcase, just as much as I could do a scheduling through Teams, I could also do it through my Outlook. So this would be my Outlook, and my calendar, my Outlook under calendar, I could come here and schedule a new Teams engagement. We are used to the new appointments and all that that come with the Outlook, but we now have Teams as well extended to my Outlook. So right through here, I would be able to do the same thing, just like I did while within Teams. Okay. Okay, so that would be it with the calendar and scheduling. Allow me to jump into my calls. Now, in my calls area, I have a couple of areas here. I have people on my speed dial. I have my contacts. I have my communication history, okay, all being tracked under still one platform. I have my voice messages, okay. Now, if I go to my speed dial, in here, of course, I would have visibility of how we are doing. Now, you take note, you'll notice that given that ADS is actually attending a meeting right now, is part of this conversation, clearly the intelligence from within the system shows that they are not available I can't reach them, okay? So meaning that they are in a meeting, so I shouldn't be able to disturb them at the moment, okay? And clearly you will see the color shows a different color, which is red therein. I have Colin here who is available, so I could either invite them to join the meeting or otherwise, or even initiate another appointment or video call with them, okay? So what does that mean? Should I invite them, that means I would be able to put this particular conversation on hold and then join that conversation for a quick reference. So you can clearly see that I can jump in and out of a conversation, okay? Should I need any reference from outside while within this conversation, I can come in and out, okay? Join and rejoin, okay? I can consult and then come back and give more guidance to a meeting, all right? And then, of course, I could chat with somebody right here. So should I be in a meeting here and I need quick heads up on something, I could quickly chat with them here to be able to ascertain more insight on what, you know, as need arises, okay? But of course, you can also call, okay? Now, for people that use, have integrated their telephony system, or would like to connect, this can also be done on Teams, such that you are in position to make a direct call onto, say, your landline or your mobile phone or directly out of Teams. Okay. Okay. So, of course, here, the next area, we have our files area. And under files, of course, I already mentioned the recent chats gave me all these as my files for reference. So these include those that are stored on the cloud and those that are stored on SharePoint and those that are stored on OneDrive. Okay. So under Teams, these would be the files that are now seated and controlled by the SharePoint and SharePoint Online. Okay. Should I need to download a given file, I can have it downloaded as well. But again, this follows the policies that are set out or laid out within SharePoint. Okay, who can download, who should access, who should be able to edit, who should not be able to view a file, who can, I mean, all that is controlled under your SharePoint structure. Now, down here we have the OneDrive and the files that come through OneDrive. Right? Those files that I showed you that were a one-to-one conversation are not shared under SharePoint Online, but they're shared under OneDrive. This is a drive that an online storage that is given to you by Microsoft, up to about 20 GBs of size. Okay, so all the files, the personal communication that you may have is up here. But of course, time to time, you can have this migrated or shared across with your overall SharePoint Online. Should need be, should there be need. Okay. Then, allow me to also showcase a couple of other things. I could extend my Teams to a couple of other applications. Teams is not limited. there are a couple of integrations that you could pull into. So I could have, for example, my teams connected to my customer relationship management, the CRM, that is my Dynamics 365, customer engagement, should there be need. I could have a OneNote. I could have, but most interesting here, and a couple of other apps can also come through here, okay? Now, I could have, let's just quickly have a preview on the shifts, okay, as an app that I want to extend my teams to. So in here, I have a project, okay, and onto this, I have created a couple of shifts, all right? So if an organization or a given project requires people to work in shifts or on a given schedule, we could have this done here under our shifts, okay? Now, I could have a number of users, okay, who are part of this this area. I could invite as many. I could have, for example, other operational areas handled also. For example, I need a new request. I need to be able to take an time off of a project, okay? For example, unpaid, I would say from a given date, from which date? From 29th of June for a full day. I want to take an unpaid leave. Okay, it could be unpaid leave, paternal leave, off, okay, parental leave and off, and so on, vacation and so on. And then, of course, I'll put a comment and then you send your request for approval. So this would go through the approval workflow, and should it be approved, then you wouldn't be available within that given schedule on a project. Okay. All right. Yes, that would be it. Of course, there are a couple of other things that you can bring on board or extend teams to. There are so many other areas. There are so many available apps. This list is growing. For people that are using Zoom, you can connect to Zoom through Teams. So yes, that would be an area for, there's so many, it's wide. So from time to time, you can have this reviewed, and should you need an extra extension into a given application, you can have it brought onto your Teams. Okay, now, allow me right here, we are all in this conversation. I would want to quickly just have a few things here. Of course, we entered this collaboration, and in here we have, for example, a video conference. I could choose to say, turn off my camera, such that I'm not seen. I could mute my microphone. Okay. Now I'm doing a presentation, so meaning you're able to see what I'm doing here. But I could also stop or have another person share their screen or do a presentation. Somebody can raise, for example, if you had a question in the middle of this presentation, you would right away be able to click this, raise up your hand, and somebody should be able to attend to you, okay? Pause and attend to you. I could send a chat conversation here to somebody directly off this. I could see my participants, okay, right in here, okay? So I could see my guest list, and right from here, of course, I can decide to mute everybody, or, okay? But during this conversation, I could also choose to export all my attendees, okay? I could choose to export all my attendees such that this forms my list of attendees that were part of this conversation, okay? Now, in here, of course, you are able to do a couple of things. You will notice that this session is being recorded, okay? And at a later time, we'll have it shared with you. So in here you can see, I can stop a conversation, I can stop the recording, I can start a recording, okay? And all this is shared, is stored in what we call the stream. It's another application on Microsoft platform that where this is stored for you. So you can always download it for a review, and yes. Of course, you can have a couple of other things. I can change the effects of my background. Should I need to, I can change my background to something else. I can blur my background. Okay. All right. So if I want to do that, I will apply that, and therefore my background should be now different. Okay. So this helps you disguise your environment. If, for example, you're working, we know this is a tool that helps us to work within office, but also outside of office, both on the move. For example, if you're at an airport or wherever you are, you would want to hide your background, or not, so that you don't distract the conversation therein. Okay, so a couple of other things. I could turn off video that we already saw. And yes, I want now to just dive into something else, still on my Teams, and showcase a bit of the administration. Okay, the administration is handled through my Office 365 administration. So the capabilities, the strength that it ships out of out of Office 365 is also inherent within my Teams administration. So clearly you can see under Teams here, under administration, I have a couple of other areas, the security, compliance, there are a couple of things that come with Office 365. So I can have my team administration here. That's my focus. I could have, you remember we talked about SharePoint. So that can also be administered here. So under my Teams administration window, I won't reopen it again. I have it here already open. This would give me the administration console for the Teams environment. Okay, so in here, I'm able to see, for example, at the dashboard level, see how we are doing under Teams still. I could administer and manage my teams. I could set up team policies. Okay, for example, I would choose to say who under my teams should be able to see what or access what, access which files or do which roles. All that can be governed through my Teams policy here. Okay, I could see all the users. Okay, all my users. So these are the users under my Teams. Okay, I could, for example, do some policies that govern meetings. Okay, now in here, for example, if I come in here, I would want to see who can do what. For example, who can record? Okay, who should be able to record? Who should be able to delete a message? Who should be able to, all that can be done under my policies here. So this is one policy that has been set, but I could set up a couple of other policies, okay, to come up with. All right. Of course, there are other areas that we may not have time to dive into. This we can extend the conversation one-on-one, but at a later time. It's quite detailed and in-depth, but this gives us a high-level overview of our teams. Okay. All right. So at this point, I would want to. I know we have about 10 minutes. I would want to bring this to a halt and allow Any feedback, any questions are most welcome. Ida, I would want to hand back to you. Please take it on.
Okay, thank you, Herbert. That was very insightful. So I'm inviting any questions. I would suggest that on that menu you see on your screen, there is an icon for the conversation that would lead you to the meeting chat. So you can type your question there so that we avoid everyone speaking at once and a lot of feedback. You can type your question there, and then Herbert will be responding to each question as it comes in. Okay, just as the questions come in, we'll be having another webinar on the ERP front. Those of you who are interested in finance and administration and generally automating your operations, we will have another arrangement where we briefly talk about the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central at a later note. I'll share a link with you. You can go ahead and register if you're already interested, and then we can take it on from there. And maybe Herbert, you can elaborate okay, a few questions have come in, Herbert, so I'll leave you to handle. But I think your microphone is still muted, so we can't hear you.
Hello. Oh, James says, the first question from James is to do with unpaid leave and handling. Oh, I guess that was through the shifts, what I showed you under shifts. Now, and workflow configuration and whether or not it's complicated. No, this can be handled through what we call the online automation or the business automation. The automation is pretty straightforward. There's a tool that you can use for that. So it's not complicated, not at all. You can actually do it as a client, as an administrator or as a user on your side, with a few clicks. Then the other question would be, hello there, I'm Fideli. I would like to ask if there is a free, as we know, our online communication. Other online communication. Well, okay, the question here is there a free version? I guess that's the question. Yes, Microsoft ships a free version, but of course it has some, what we've demonstrated is what comes through the Office 365, but there's a free version that is available. Of course, there are some trade-offs. There are quite some trade-offs, but yes, it's something you can start up with and upgrade from at a later stage. So yes, that's possible. Evelyn, can you recall a sent message in Teams? Yes, you can. Again, that is a policy. You can even delete that message and replace it with another message. How different is SharePoint from Teams? Well, these are two different platforms. Microsoft Teams is, as I mentioned, is a collaboration, a purely collaboration hub for you, where you're bringing together telephony, you're bringing together the chat capabilities, you're bringing together the capabilities that ship with or within SharePoint. So you're bringing a lot of these platforms to work under one environment, which helps your team work seamlessly, and that's under Teams. So Teams would sit at a higher level, collaborating with all the other platforms, as it were, but they are different. These are two different things, but working together. I hope that answers the question. Marvin, hi, I'm Marvin. What causes echoes during meetings and levels of security offered by Teams? What causes echoes? Now, there are a couple of things. Of course, echoes could be as a result of if, for example, we are seated in the same room and we have some feedback. If I have another person connecting onto the same conversation and all our microphones are on, clearly we'll have communication flowing back and forth. So that would result into an echo, okay? But again, should you have an environment or if you're seated somewhere that is a bit noisy, yes, there will be some noise filtering through. So it would pick the environment as you are. But for the echo, it's as a result of having communication recycled within the channel. Okay, so it is always advisable that before one starts a conversation, they unmute, and should they conclude their submission, they unmute, or rather they mute the environment to avoid that feedback. Okay. Evelyn, hello there. Can you download a file that our team members have shared on OneDrive, on Drive using Microsoft Teams? If the environment has been shared on OneDrive, yes, you can download if you're part of the conversation, of course. If you're part of that team or you are part of the conversation, you could be in position to share in on the file that has been shared. But of course, if it is shared on SharePoint, then there are other policies that govern the entire download or upload in the process. Sorry about my background. Marvin again asks, how best can one improve Teams settings in low internet speed areas? Well, I guess we would need to first understand and appreciate the internet that we are talking about, but through a direct conversation, we can have a one-to-one share of the requirements, the minimum specs that, for example, would support your team's environment. Niger, look here. I have attended, but your audio is too low. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Evelyn, can you dictate a meeting? Yes. Can you dictate a meeting? Can you dictate a meeting? Yes, that's possible. Again, I don't think we have a lot of time to elaborate that, but let me just quickly say, come into the others. The answer is yes. Hi, Herbert, this is finance. How best can the organization that works with remote communities in different countries engage with such a good system? And how can your expertise come into play? Well, again, this we can discuss. We can engage on a one-to-one to try and exhaust this. We would need to do an analysis of the exact requirement, but it's very well possible. Of course, we would need internet in place, and with internet in place, a lot of this conversation would rhyme. Evelyn, is it possible for us to have another in-house training during the quarter? Oh, Evelyn, yes, this is very possible. Thank you so much. It's possible. We can organize this. We can have this arranged. Yes, thank you so much. I guess that is it. That's all that I can see in the panel. One last one. Is the HRP application for small organizations? Yes. Again, we would want to appreciate, we would like to appreciate how small is small, but for sure, yes, we can leverage this solution in any size of an organization. The conversation can come through. What is the cost, Marvin? That is something that I'm sure Ida, please take note of. We will need to engage. We may not be able to exhaust this during this conversation, but it's something we will need to get back to you on a one-to-one basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for attending this. There's some of the questions that Herbert is not able to get into right now, but I'm going to reach out to you, and then we can have the conversation out of this meeting. Anything about cost, implementation, and all that, we shall have the meeting out of this. So we'll be sending a video to all the participants as well. So for the person who was complaining about the audio, we apologize. Hopefully the video will be louder. The volume will be better with the video. So we'll go ahead and end this. Thank you so much for your participation. And yeah, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Ida, and we sign out.